talk. It's been a minute, but we're back with another episode of Nerdology live on the airways of YouTube. Your host, Chris, as always, along with my partner in crime, our founder of IMS Productions, that boy Jai. You know him from Hey Jai, you know him from a plethora of things. So before we begin, Jai, you want to tell us about how things been going these last few weeks? We've been gone for a little minute.
Yeah, the whole IMS has been a little bit of a hiatus. Creatives, you know how that gets.
Yeah,
But best believe we are coming back. Coming back good. Coming back like Furious 5. Coming back like Jack Black in a Kung Fu Panda movie.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Coming back like Marvel did with the Thunderbolts, and y'all are finally gonna get that full Thunderbolts. I'm sorry, New Avengers review.
The New Avengers. All right, let's get that right.
Things have been spilled, so yeah.
Got a full review of that. We have a bunch of trailers to review in today's show. Guys, another thing, we are 19 subscribers on the CL Smooth Gaming channel. We're 19 subscribers away from hitting our first 100. So
let's go.
81 and counting. We're continuing to grow. So y'all go ahead and subscribe, like, share, subscribe, support the whole nine. So like I said, we got the New Avengers review. We got a bunch of trailers to look at. We're learning more about GTA 6, even though we're still over a year away, which is crazy that we're still over a year away from the game. It's like not even less than a year away. Mafia Old Country is coming out. We learned more about Fantastic Four, and then of course Superman. We're getting more context on what that movie is going to be like. So we got a whole show for you guys. So without further ado, man, let's just get it started, dude. Let's get it started. Let's start with obviously the big news, GTA 6, man. So we got a second trailer in the time that we found out the game was being delayed until next May. And I'd say that this new trailer gives us so much more information about this game, what we can expect from the game, what we can do in the game. And so I'm curious to see, curious to get your thoughts on it. And we can just start picking at it. Like, let's dive into it.
Yeah. What I learned a lot in the second trailer, I think I know what they're trying to go for. So, GTA 5, such a big deal of marketing of what they pushed was you're playing against 3 characters and you have the online option. They were more so pushing the feature of it. This, I think, is something that they're kind of going back to pushing the character aspect of it, which isn't coincidental to me, considering that they just announced that they're going to remaster GTA 4, which arguably had the best character in GTA series. It seems like it's Jason, and I forgot what was the woman's name, Lucia. Yeah. So it seems like that they're kind of diving into their stories, their character dynamics. It seems like it's going to be a very intricate story. I mean, of course, it's GTA, so you're gonna always have like some wild shit going on. But man, this is a very good story trailer. The elevation, they've been doing side by sides of GTA 5 final trailer and then this second trailer, and you kind of see, as you can see here, okay, I see the kind of work that they're putting in, the motion. It's kind of hard to tell that even some things are like a video game until you look into it. I sound like the old people. Whoa, that looks like it's real. This actually looks like it's real. You can see look at the reflection physics. You know what I'm saying? Not trying to get into like the sweat mechanics. I know. I saw a clip of one of the developers talking about the jiggle mechanics. They had a girl shaking ass in the jiggle mechanics, and I was like, and listen, we know this all for jokes, but like you can tell they put a lot of really intricate detail into this game outside of just like making it fun. Like, look at the environment. You see the birds, you see the trash, you see the detail in the barbed wiring, and this is just for the trailer. And so I think all we're missing now is actual gameplay footage. But man, this trailer has been astounding.
The interesting thing about the trailer is that all of the footage that you're seeing is recorded from PS5, not PS5 Pro. Like, Rockstar came out and they were very adamant about saying that. So like, this is coming from your base PS5, and you can definitely tell that the developers went for immersion, like being able to interact with the world in a way that we've never seen in a GTA game before. But on top of that, like, there you go, them jiggle mechanics right there. but we're seeing that the level of detail has been fine-tuned to such a degree that this is by far the most advanced video game I think we've ever seen, gotten. And it, obviously I can't wait to get my hands on the game, but we're learning more about the characters in itself, like how the character, the backstory between Lucia and Jason. Rockstar released on their website little paragraphs of each character, kind of diving into their story. The interesting thing about it is that like Lucia and Jason, I think actually I'm intrigued by their story. The fact that obviously they go way back. There's obviously the level of companionship, trust, maybe a little tension. We might get that here and there. We might get they're coming from that Bonnie and Clyde background of like, oh, they did a score that went wrong. Now they're kind of caught up in this big mess of things in this jungle of a city, Vice City. So we're seeing the side characters, the depth that the side characters got. There was a part I saw this one YouTuber who was diving into it. If you watch the beginning of the trailer, they got the guy, I think his name was Brian, and he's basically like a landlord. We're learning that he also is like a big drug pusher and stuff. And so we're seeing how he kind of plays into it. If you pay attention to the trailer, a bunch of his like merchandising, like hats, t-shirts, signs, billboards, or not necessarily billboards, but like signs and companies are all over or scattered all over the map. So that tells you, okay, Brian is going to have a big role in the game. You're seeing all the other characters that they're introducing. So this trailer has shown us, obviously the people who do the deep dives, it has shown us so much about the level of detail and immersion that this game is going to be shooting for, and it's definitely up there. It's definitely up there.
One thing you mentioned, which I really want to touch on it. We kind of called it back way in July, whenever we saw the trailer for Star Wars, and we were talking about NCAA and things like that. That this is about to be the actual turning point of the PS5. Like now, we're about to actually start seeing the value of what can come from a PS5 game. You mentioned with the immersion, you said the footage was all shot on the PS5. This actually looks like next gen game mechanic. So, and I think this is going to become the norm. We saw a little bit of that with Assassin's Creed, and, another thing that I do appreciate about this trailer, which I'm glad they're making games fun again. And in terms of solo, right? Making games you can play by yourself fun again. Of course, everybody's still going to run to the online because that's just where we are in the era of gaming. But I like the emphasis that they're putting on the story. We saw so many different things from the story, and we are playing audio from the trailer. But like whenever you listen to the audio, it seems very immersive. It seems like a legit movie, and I'll just encourage everybody just to go read on some of the articles about the story, get a little bit of in-depth into it. I already have a theory that Brian's going to end up being a Fed. And so
I actually thought about that. There was actually this other interesting theory that Jason is also a cop.
That's what I meant, Jason. I'm sorry. I said Brian.
I've heard, but it might have been an accident, but I've heard the Brian theory too before, actually.
Okay.
So that's what I thought you were going for, because I've heard that theory too of like, okay, is Brian a Fed? The crazy thing is that one thing we're learning about Brian is that so Jason obviously lives with Brian rent free. He says it. He has a line in the beginning of the trailer that talks about how Jason is like not a paying tenant, but that tells me that obviously we're going to be doing a lot of missions for Brian. If we're not a paying tenant, we got to be paying him some kind of way. So we probably like pushing drugs for him, doing missions for him. So Brian's going to be a key figure in the story. Excuse me. We're also, another thing that we're looking at from the trailer that I'm seeing is just customization, right? There's another emphasis on customization. You see that a lot with both Lucia and Jason. If you look throughout the trailer, they have several different looks. I think the developers did this on purpose, obviously.
Absolutely.
Throwing
and
like
not just Lucia and Jason. Also, I saw clips of some of the other characters. I believe it was the rapper, the guy that had like the Kodak wicks in one clip, and then another clip he was bald and things like that. And they kind of did a little bit of that with Lamar, in the last GTA. So. But that was kind of like later on in GTA 5's life cycle. So I'm glad that's something that they're bringing over.
Something that I like that they're bringing over. One thing I also noticed was that one thing that made San Andreas was so good was the level of customization that we had in that game. So being able to like change CJ's body weight, change CJ's physique and stuff like that, all that kind of stuff, like being able to change how he looks as a person. That seems like it's coming back, right? We're seeing that we're going to have activities, gym, the gym, being able to lift weights, being able to alter your physique, alter your appearance, and bringing back that deep level of customization. Customization has always been a thing in GTA. I remember in the early GTAs, you could really just change your clothes. Like in Vice City, you really could just change your clothes.
Right.
And then as the years went on, they started making the customization to it. They started taking the customization to another level. I thought GTA 5 kind of rolled back on that. Like, yeah, you could change your hair, you could change your clothes, but the fact that you couldn't change, your physique and your attributes, your, stuff like that, kind of made me think that, okay, well, they need to ramp this up, and it looks like they are for GTA 6.
I do want to give them some grace on that in GTA 5 because they did give us 3 characters, so you will have to account for that with 4 separate character models because you had your online character as well.
Yeah,
so I am going to give them a little bit of grace on that. But it seems like with this, time well spent. I think they're trying to give us as much as possible to enjoy the totality of the game, not just one aspect of it, not just play the story, okay, I'm bored, or playing online, but I have no money. I remember what life was like before, for the homies got GTA and you was playing GTA online, you couldn't do nothing but them little selling weed missions.
Yeah.
You only got 12
can rob a convenience store or some stuff like that. But another thing that I thought about when I was watching the trailer too, I think you might have noticed, was that there was a scene that we just passed up of the cops arresting what looks to be somebody just pulled over. So that told me that, okay, now we're going to have a different feel to the cops. The arrest system in the game, it's going to be a lot more advanced. Cops are no longer just going to be shooting you on sight. They're going to try to make arrests. It's going to, they're going to try to do some investigations. What I look at with that is realism, adding that sense of realism to the game.
And not just the cops and how they interact with you. I want to see, and I think it kind of touched on it in the trailer, and I want to see it in actual gameplay, but hopefully that they focus on the environment changing, like whenever, like you said, like random people on the street that get arrested by the cops. I just don't want all the random AIs just to be walking. Or if I just punch somebody in the face, like 3 people run away and everybody just goes on about their day. Let's shake it up a little bit. Let's have people doing stuff. In Florida, I want to be riding around and they got a crazy dude in the alley trying to stab somebody or something. Let's get to it.
I read actually that the NPCs, the level of detail and dynamicness, if you will, to the NPCs has been completely revamped. You're going to see a lot more interesting and dynamic interactions with NPCs amongst like other NPCs, like amongst themselves or amongst you or amongst the cops. Like the NPCs have a level of depth that we've never seen before. So it flushes out the world, makes the world feel more authentic, more realistic. And so, that's the thing that we all want to see in the GTAs. We want to be like we're in Vice City. We're immersed in the world. The map is also huge. So there's going to be plenty of places to go, plenty of things to do, so from what we're seeing with the game, only 2 trailers in, and the trailers are almost 2 years apart from when we got 2023's GTA 6 trailer and then when we got this GTA 6 trailer. And the thing about it is that you could actually see improvements visually from that first trailer to the trailer that they released a few weeks ago. And that shows to me like the delay and the waiting and the anticipation of the game is all well worth it. They are literally improving the game right before our eyes as we speak. Everything.
I will say that the trailer brought them some grace, but the pressure I think is still,
of course,
still at a 10 because I think whenever you're pushing it back a year, that pressure is still at a 10. But I do like what I'm seeing. I do like the information that has come out, not just with the trailer, but getting profiles on the story. We got to see some gameplay next, though. Another trailer is going to cut it. Another article is going to cut it. We don't need to see any more. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing any more butts and mocaps, but nah. We got to get some gameplay. Moving forward. And honestly, I know we just kind of like assume the online. I haven't heard anything about what the online is going to be. So I'm actually very curious and how they're going to handle that. Do you think it might be something that they might release later? Because I don't know if you remember, but GTA 5 Online, I believe that had a bit of it wasn't at launch.
Right.
Do you think that's something they might release later?
Yeah, I read about that, and definitely something I think they could explore and do, especially because if you think about it, like everybody and their mom is going to be wanting to play this game. So the servers are going to be trash first few weeks. You're not, if you even get in a server, right? Yeah. Good luck getting in a server. And then if you do manage to get into one, good luck staying in one if it doesn't crash, right? So they're probably going to have to like make sure the servers are up to date, are working as properly as they should, and they can just withstand the volume and traffic of players. So that might make them push online play back a little bit. They might release that at a different date. I actually thought that they were going to do that. It just hard for me to believe that they're going to release both on launch. But then again, maybe they, Rockstar has been a company that is known to surprise people a lot. They know that they don't need high level marketing to push this game. This game is pushing itself. So, no, you're absolutely right. I think gameplay is next. Obviously, that's the next step. We need to see some like a, I wouldn't mind Rockstar, kind of like how college football did right before it got released, when EA released their deep dive video and they showed I think it was like Donovan Edwards versus some YouTuber, and they were playing a game, and they coached us through the gameplay and all the different things you can do in the game. I would love to see Rockstar do that same thing. Like have somebody play the game, go through maybe one story mission. That's all it takes. Is just give us like one mission.
Have the characters. Have Jason and Lucia.
That'd be nice.
Or give us throwback. Give us Franklin. Give us Trevor. Give us Michael.
Yeah, somebody who has cachet. Yeah,
somebody has cachet for sure.
Yeah, right. Just give us that. Let us see some gameplay. We just need one mission. Walk us through it. Show us the driving mechanics, the shooting mechanics, the a little
bit of customization, maybe.
Little customization, things like that. All you would do, and that would, by the way, breaks records. If this trailer's breaking records, and as soon as they release something like that
might break a YouTube record. Not just a gameplay. That might break a YouTube record altogether.
So, and if they drop that, obviously we'll be bringing that to Nerdology. But
one little nitpicky thing that I kind of want them to do with the story, obviously we're seeing Jason going to pick Lucia from jail. I want to spend like a little bit of time, like maybe like a small mission or two, to kind of like get Jason. I want to see like a little bit of how he interacts with the environment, how he interacts with the community. Because we saw at the beginning of that trailer, he's working out on the beach, the women are coming up to him, you see the guys at the bar and on the sidewalk calling him, stuff like that. Let's get a little bit more of his interaction before we just jump into having to do everything with them together.
We saw also in the beginning of the trailer when he's driving and people are like in the neighborhood are waving at him saying, "Hey, Jason." Like, so we could clearly tell that from the trailer, like Jason is a guy who's well liked in his community. Despite what he may or may not do that we don't know yet with criminal activity he's involved with, it seems like he's just one of those cool guys that the players are supposed to like. Lucia seems more of like the badass girlfriend, the ride or die, but she gets shit done type girlfriend, who also, that's another archetype that I am super interested in, super locked in on. So that's a good dynamic between the two. You got the likable dude who's just chill with everybody, who's cool with everybody. You got the badass girlfriend who she's not only like bad as in bad, but she's also bad as in get shit done. So this Rockstar has found something. They never cease to amaze me with like not copying and pasting their same story. GTA 4 is not GTA 5. GTA 5 is not GTA 6. None of that is GTA.
This isn't Miami Vice remastered. I mean, not Miami Vice, but this is Vice City remastered. Even though it's in essentially the same area, like the same spinoff of Miami, you can tell that it's a completely different. They're going with a completely different vibe. This is redneck Florida. This isn't. Cuban Nights, Ocean Drive, Florida. This is gonna be like redneck. We're in the Everglades.
But you got all types of Florida. That's another thing too, is that the map shows us you have redneck Florida, you have city Miami, you have the Keys, you have where there's a lot of drug trafficking. I heard was going to be involved in the Keys. You have the map is so big, and the culture. The thing of it is,
the 80s. Shout out my Zoes. Yeah, like Hollywood, Florida, you know, like
yeah,
and stuff like that. So.
But you're gonna see a wide range of cultures in the game based on where you are on the map. You know, the more north you get, might be more country and rural, and obviously being in Vice City is obviously going to see more. Probably going to see a lot more black people in Vice City than you see in the rural areas, and you know, stuff like that, right? Wild animals are a thing for the first time, and that's going to be an interesting thing. And the activities that you could do with wild animals, hunting, fishing, all that kind of stuff. So like, this is a game where
those gators is gonna be hilarious.
Oh, bro, people are gonna be getting killed by the gators and stuff, and it's gonna make for great content too.
Absolutely.
Like, so we'll leave that there, though. Obviously, there's gonna be a lot more information that we get from GTA 6. Maybe not actually, because it was 2 years since the first trailer. But yeah, gameplay is absolutely next. We gotta have some gameplay. We gotta just see all the mechanics of the game. How fluid does it play? So we can't wait to see that. Superman. All right. So look how excited
I'm so hyped.
Look how excited. So the trailer, this second trailer has me hyped because I think for me, I think the old DCU kind of just left a bad taste in my mouth to where this is a completely different DCU era that we're entering, obviously, right?
Absolutely.
And it's fair to give it a fair shake. It's you know, the right thing to do would be go in there with just brand new expectations. Don't think that it's gonna continue what DC was in the last decade. Obviously, your mind just doesn't work that way. You have a little bit of that bias in it, right?
Yeah.
I will say this trailer has eliminated most of that.
This is James Gunn. This is how you intro a cinematic universe. Yeah, we know you worked on Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. That was cool. Creature Commandos, that was cool. But this is your real foot in the door, and this is a big one. After what happened with the Thunderbolts, after you got the Fantastic Four that's supposed to be coming out a week before, and what they dropped, the information that we got from them. This is how you make a statement, James Gunn, and I am excited. Listen, Mr. Corn Sweat, I was a very big Henry Cavill guy, but he looks like Superman in that trailer. That's the Superman that we watched in the cartoons. That's the Christopher Reeve Superman. That's right. The small Superman, you know. And don't get me wrong, I love the Snyderverse take on it because it was different. I think it was more of a realistic take on it. But this reminded me that Superman isn't supposed to be realistic. He's supposed to be perfect. He's supposed to be the true Boy Scout, the true hero. You see how emotional he got over just trying to help people. That's what I wanted to hear from my Superman.
Right.
Is, you know, like, and some of this footage we've seen in the other trailers, but now we have context to it. And man, like, it just got me so hyped. Like, yes, he's struggling. Yes, he knows that he can go God mode and take out everything, but you know what he's here for? He's here to protect the people. Right, and I think this is what we wanted out of Superman, that bright-eyed, that charismatic, you know, the CGI was amazing with Crypto. That looks amazing. For a second, before he barked, you think that's a real dog right there, you know?
You're right. I thought it was a real doggy. That's news to me, actually.
I'm actually very curious to see how Lex operates, because I'm so used to, I can't think of the actor's name right now, but I'm so used to him playing like a good guy. So I'm curious to see him as a villain. The only critique that I have about the trailer, from what I can see, too many characters.
Yeah, I was curious as to Nicholas Hoult.
Nicholas Hoult. Yeah.
Hoult. Yeah. I was curious to see how are they going to make all these characters work. Yeah. How are they going to make these characters work?
Superman, Lex, Lois, you got to have them. Crypto, it's cool. You gotta have the villain, but you got
Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, Hawk Girl,
Metaball.
It's a lot of characters.
And I know they want to kind of establish, I believe, the Justice League of America in there, which I think you can have that established without them actually being super prominent in the movie, like just kind of like reference them or something like that. And it seems like one thing that I'm noticing in the trend of superhero movies for like the more popular ones that I do appreciate, we're bypassing the origins. We don't need to retell the origin story all over again.
That is
we
a
know
great
it.
Point.
He came from a dying planet, came here as a baby. We don't need to figure him out, learn it. Everybody knows how Superman became Superman.
Right.
So I do like that.
There's no new take. There's no new spin that you could put on that we don't already know. The character. Same thing with Fantastic Four. Like we've skipped the whole going to space and all that stuff. So like,
yeah, I don't give us see Richard the nerdy, incompetent scientist, and then come back and do all that. No, we get it.
Right. Like that to me. That this trailer showed me a lot. Right. Obviously, the fight scenes look amazing. It showed me that Superman is, like you said, he's struggling a little bit. He's navigating, right? There's a learning curve to his power. I'm also seeing the days of bringing back, which by the way, this could be a formula that works great for DC. We're going back to superhero films are not supposed to be this ultra serious, dramatic thing. That it can be lighthearted. It can be fun. There's a reason why they wear bright colors. Bringing back the bright colors in his costume, I think, was a big choice in that. Bringing back a lot of these big cast of characters because, as to your point, yeah, they're setting up something, but also to introduce your new universe, your new DCU, right?
Right.
And all of these characters are going to make returns, and they're gonna be a pivotal part of moving forward when we get when James Gunn, if he's the head of DC, and obviously we're gonna get Batman, we're gonna get Flash probably.
We're gonna get Supergirl. We got the Lanterns TV show coming out of HBO. This was coming a few like next year. So yeah, but this trailer heavy hitter for sure.
I think the biggest takeaway from the trailer, for me at least, is in the beginning we see Clark Kent and Superman at the same time, right? Lois Lane is interviewing Clark Kent, but she's interviewing Superman dressed as Clark Kent.
Yeah.
So now we're seeing that's a completely different dynamic of Superman, Clark Kent, Lois Lane that we've seen in the past, where Clark's kind of been this separate thing. Superman's kind of been a separate thing. Lois has had her suspicions, but she never knew for sure. But now we're obviously saying she knows.
And I think that was kind of like not the biggest, but I think that was one of the issues with the last Superman and how it was written, was that Clark Kent and Superman were such a big dynamic when in actuality, like a big switch, like, and that works for Batman and Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is the charismatic businessman, playboy. Batman is super serious. It doesn't work for Superman because Superman is just supposed to be literally just super Clark Kent. Like they're both the same optimistic, they're both the same chipper, that kind of vibe. And I think we're getting that back because, and another thing, we're bypassing the whole origin. I have to hide this from Lois and all that. No, like we're cutting through the mustard and we're really just getting into Superman. How is Superman going to be the hero?
Yeah.
Clearly this movie seems like it's not just about him. Like you said, we saw him struggling. It's a learning curve. I'm sure he doesn't need a learning curve on, how to use his powers, but I think he's learning on how to be a hero, how to be everywhere at once. I believe it was Superman 4. It was one of the Reeves. It was one of the Christopher Reeves movies. It was either Superman 3 or 4, and it's like the plot of the movie was all these disasters were going on at the same time, or like back to back to back. And his whole thing was he's trying to go fly across the world and handle everything at once. And that's been one of the few struggles that Superman has had, because nobody can really beat him up. Nobody can beat him up. Nobody can, if he gets serious, go to toe with him. There's almost no obstacle that he can overcome. That's supposed to be his thing. He's supposed to be unstoppable. But how does he handle it? And I think, him having that human emotion and going through it, because I think with the Snyderverse, that Superman that we got, he always knew that he wasn't human. I believe the whole premise was like, how is he supposed to be a god amongst immortals? Well, that was never really like comic book accurate Superman, because Superman was raised in Kansas. All his villains tried to make him see like, you are a god amongst immortals, but in his mind, he's just like, man, I'm just a just a regular old dude. I'm just trying to fight for good. We hear it in the trailer where he's saying that I wasn't representing America going into a foreign nation. I was just representing myself and trying to do good and save lives.
Right.
You know, and I think that's something that you didn't know you missed until you had it. Like I said on the show before, Superman is one of my favorite superheroes for sure, top 2. And so, yeah, man, this has been great to see.
Something I saw, another thing I saw in the newest trailer was, like I said, the beginning I thought was very powerful. I thought the middle and the end of the trailer were more showing like the cinematography of the film, the fight scenes, the kind of interesting shots, but also the dynamic of, like you said, him flying across the world trying to save everybody. But the beginning of the trailer showed me another thing too, was one of the central things I think in this movie is going to be how does Superman balance having autonomy and power that's unchecked, right? You see him getting upset because Lois is asking him questions about, well, did you even ask the president's permission to do something? He stopped a war, right? Saved lots of lives, but he did it on his own. He just kind of flew off and just did it. And so now that's like, well, are there limits to him? Are there checks and balances to him? So that's something we saw in the old Christopher Reeve movies, right? And then we're also seeing how he's building the foundation of who Clark Kent is, who Superman is. And that I've always interpreted Clark Kent as a little different than who Superman is supposed to be. Like Superman is confident, he's bold, they're both the same as in they both want to do good. That's, I agree with you on there. Like they both are the same in that regard. I think Clark Kent is like slightly less confident though, a little bit more nerdy, a little goofy. Superman is anything but those things. So, and I think you see that demonstrated perfectly in the trailer because you see him, she's asking him, oh, well, would you let me interview as Superman? He's like, oh yeah. And then as soon as the interview starts, his voice changed, his posture changes, everything about him, is okay. This is, here's Clark Kent, mortal, human, navigating the world, this awkward world. And then here's Superman, all powerful, savior, protector of Earth type guy. So, this trailer just built up so much anticipation and hype for me. I'm so excited for this movie, like you said. So I'm right there with you in the anticipation, the hype, man. And like I said, it took the bad taste out of those prior DCU movies from the old era out of our mouth a little bit. So it's like now we're like, it feels like a fresh day.
Even the movie itself looks brighter. Like
it looks brighter. Yeah,
it looks brighter.
It looks like DC's trying to go their own way. Finally,
remember how dark the Justice League movie was? Like literally, it was literally dark. So I appreciate that. I always felt that Superman was closer to the Clark Kent Superman dynamic was a lot closer to Peter Parker and Spider-Man dynamic rather than Bruce Wayne and Batman to me. Where it's kind of like, still pretty much the same guy, but it's like the little nerdy kid, and then you just get more confident whenever you decide to get into that mode with the power. Another thing with the power in check, so a theory that's kind of floating around is that there's a storyline where Lex Luthor is actually president, and you saw how triggered he got whenever you asked the president. So could we possibly see President Lex at some point in this movie?
Not bad.
And what we're getting is a Superman that's already established, someone as a hero. We're getting the other heroes already established, so we can see how that dynamic can raise some conflict. And then also you have like I said, him being everywhere at once. I remember whenever the first concept art came for this movie, it was him sitting looking at the skyrise, and and they had like the big monster thing shooting the blaster, and then we saw that he was just casually putting on his boots, right? And then we saw in the trailer he was kissing Lois while that was going on, and I think that's a powerful thing of saying that not let him have it, but I think that's the only way where the team can make sense of having all the other heroes in there is that, hey, you don't have to try to literally carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. This is happening, but you don't have to forget about who you are to go handle that. So that's just a lot that we pull up from a trailer, but all I can say is I'm very excited for it. I think DC, this is how you respond.
This is how you respond. This is how you introduce a whole new era in your franchise, so don't be like, listen, don't be like Marvel. There's no reason to try to copy the formula that made the MCU successful. I don't think necessarily, I don't think the old DC did that exactly, but there was aspects that you definitely felt like they were trying to like live up to and compete with. Just start your whole thing from scratch. Everything got to be brand new. And I think James Gunn is off to a good start, and the movie hasn't even come out yet. So the optimism is there. It looks different. It doesn't look like, the Snyderverse at all. It doesn't look like that era. So I think we're in for a treat. We're in for something that's different that we've never seen before, and a new take.
If this lands well, it can set this. This is where you set the tone, because this is a flagship
character, right?
Yeah, like Iron Man for Marvel wasn't as flagship for it, right? Neither was Captain America. Like a lot of those, they were in the comic book community A heroes, but they were really B heroes, because in Marvel the A heroes were Fantastic Four, X-Men,
Spider-Man.
But you saw whenever they got Tom Holland, the MCU, it was already growing, it was already doing good. But whenever they made sure that they got Spider-Man right, everything blew up.
Right. All right. Real quick before we move on to that, do you think after Superman, let's say it hits, is Batman next?
No.
No,
because I think that part of James Gunn, I think he wants to merge the Batman with Robert Pattinson into the Batverse, which I don't want. I'm gonna be honest with you. I want them to have their own Batman, because I felt like that was like a whole different thing. So I do want their own Batman. I think they released somewhat of a slate or like a teaser. I think like the next big movie is supposed to be Supergirl. Not too stoked about that.
Okay.
I don't like whenever they start going deep into. I'll get the main people first, because you actually have to license it to get the main people down first. I would say I'm very excited for the Lantern project, and just from some of how they did the CGI that we saw in the 2 trailers with it, I know that that's going to look good. So excited for the Lantern project. I know they're doing the season 2 of Peacemaker. That's supposed to be coming out soon. I wasn't really into that, but
it was funny. It had moments.
I think the next big thing, I think the 3, maybe 4 that they have to get right: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and The Flash.
Mm-hmm.
Them making up for The Flash, which I'm gonna be honest, I'm cool with not even having a Flash movie. Because I don't think there's no Flash movie that's gonna yield a Flash solo movie. I think who they should get for the Flash to play him though in all the team up movies, or if you want to not do another show, there's no show that's gonna beat the CW Flash.
I actually think that's the guy they should get for.
That's what I'm saying. I think they should get him to go ahead and play the Flash.
Yeah. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. So, speaking of hype, more hype is building for the new Fantastic Four movie, Fantastic Four: First Steps. And Marvel's First Family looks like it's going to have a lot of elements to it that's going to launch this new phase in the MCU. So obviously we got Galactus, right? We know he's coming in. We got Silver Surfer, and we got the different take to Silver Surfer. Which, by the way, people were complaining that Silver Surfer is a woman. That's comic book accurate. It's very, very comic book accurate.
It is. In the 2000s Silver Surfer film, we met Norrin Radd, because that was his actual name. Mm-hmm. This is Sheila. I forgot what her last name is. We'll just call her Sheila Radd. She's his lover. She's his partner. And this is the version of her where she became the heroine of Galactus rather than Norrin Radd. And these are the things that you can do in the multiverse, and it still makes sense. So everybody just is looking to, the Disneyfication is woke. We gotta insert a woman here. No, they didn't retcon the gender swap a woman, just like they're doing with the Ironheart trailer. I don't know if we got that, but just like they're doing with the Ironheart trailer.
We need to talk about that next week. Yeah, we should talk about that next week.
So I'm just saying, like, all you nerds, just relax. It's comic book accurate. And listen, this is just supposed to be a movie to set up just the Fantastic Four itself. because I don't see any of these characters, any other character returning. The whole premise is, if you know anything about Galactus, you know that this whole thing is eating the world. So
he eats worlds. Yeah.
Like,
I think that Galactus will be the villain of the movie that they have to overcome, but I don't think Galactus is somebody who is going to be a long-term player in this next phase.
This is a one and done.
This is a one and done. Kind of like Killmonger, you know, like in Black Panther, kind of a one and done guy. He's just he's the antagonist of the film. I think Sheila Ball. Yeah. Her Silver Surfer is going to be a character that moves forward. I think there's like a redemption arc with her. The Silver Surfer was never a bad person, you know. So
he just had a job. He had
a job. So I think that's going to be a main staple, a player that remains. I think the thing with the Fantastic Four is this setting up them. This movie sets up how do they get to our universe, to where now they're a central figure in our universe, because this takes place in a multi-dimension Earth from the 60s, and they're going to have to now figure out, they're going to probably break into the multiverse and somehow make it their way to our Earth and make their way to modern times for Doomsday.
So I actually have some theories regarding this.
Okay,
right?
Let's hear.
So I don't think that it's going to be as simple as, I don't think Galactus is going to be the primary antagonist. I think Galactus is going to be more of a calamity. You know, kind of like the ticking bomb that's in the background. But I think the actual antagonist is going to be revealed to be Doctor Doom.
Right.
And so I think Doctor Doom or whoever summoned Galactus there, right? And I think that it might be a spin on, because we're still in the multiverse saga. The whole thing about multiverse is the incursions. The incursions is the eating of another world. I think maybe in the MCU you can have Galactus, instead of just eating the world, devour their whole universe. And we see in the trailer that Reed kind of touches on, hey, this is a problem because of I'm pushing the boundaries of space-time or something like that, right?
Right.
So I would say that Reed is probably going to be part of the reason they call Galactus there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think how they get to the world, I don't think it's just going to be because they're going to be destroyed. I think they're actually going to save the day, but I think they're going to be forced to leave the world to go help what we know as the present MCU universe, because that has all the issues going on. And I think they're going to find a way to be able to travel the universes. And I think that they're going to be drawn to that to go help. So that's just my theory. I don't think it's going to be have to make a quick escape. I think this is actually going to end on a pretty good note for the universe. And I think it's just going to lead to them really testing the boundaries of space. I think that was like the whole thing with the Fantastic Four. They were actually scientists, not superheroes.
Right. Right. I think they what I look at with Doom is they're kind of setting Doom up similar to how I think they set up Thanos, right? In the early MCU movies, we saw Thanos making we started to piece together that Thanos was kind of a guy pulling some strings here and there. A lot of in-credit scenes revealed that. A lot of towards the end of the movies that they revealed that. And so I'm seeing a lot of that with Doom, and I would very well think, okay, well there's a chance that we could be seeing something like that in this movie. Galactus is the guy who they're fighting, but Doom is the guy who is obviously orchestrating stuff.
Yeah.
So that's something that I definitely could see. It's an interesting theory. That's something that they want to set up. There was something great. We're going to talk about Thunderbolts in a minute, but there was an interesting theory I saw that, the end credits scene to Thunderbolts, spoiler warning, if whoever's seen it, the Fantastic Four ship.
Yeah,
it's 2 weeks. If you haven't seen it, it's your fault. But the ship at the end, in the end credit scene, the Fantastic Four ship, a lot of people say that might be Doom.
Mm-hmm.
That could be Doom.
It might be because the ship was different. It had 4 4 tails or something on there instead of 3. The one that we see in the Fantastic Four trailer only has 3. The one that we saw at the end credits of Thunderbolts had 4. So it could be Doom.
It could be Doom.
It could be the whole thing of Doom being from that universe. So it's a lot.
Speaking of which, speaking of which, this is the moment I know you've been waiting for, talking about the Thunderbolts, right? Last episode we did, I remember you said that it felt like old MCU, old school MCU that we were all used to, that we all knew, we all loved. And you were 100% correct. When I was watching it like at first I was like, I went in with the expectations of, okay, I remember what you had said. I'm like, let's see it for myself. Midway through the movie, I'm like, this reminds me of something I would see back in 2014. Like this movie seems like, in a good way, not in a bad way. Like it seemed like just a modern spin or a modern take on a Marvel story, a Marvel comic book story, from characters that are actually deep in the vault of comic, like in the Marvel comics, like deep in their vault. They went deep in the bag and they got Sentry. They went deep in the bag to get Helena or Yelena, the characters in the film, right? Winter Soldier was probably the biggest name from that we were already used to, so it was a great film. Marvel did good. It was obviously their better film that they had in the last 5 films. It was better than Captain America, Brave New World. And actually, I thought it made Captain America, Brave New World better. It built on it. Valentina is a badass villain. I didn't think I would like her as much as I did, but she's a great villain. And I love those cerebral villains too. The ones that are technically powerless. Definitely. Like they don't have any powers. They don't have any special abilities. They're just cunning, witty.
I hate it. It seems like they improved on every area than Brave New World, because Valentina was better than Thunderbolt Ross. I felt like Yelena was better than Bucky, like more interesting than Bucky.
Yelena was way better than Bucky. Yeah,
not Bucky. I'm sorry. You know what I'm trying to say, Sam. And no offense.
I mean, she was. I thought she was better than Bucky. Like,
she was better than Bucky too. And I'm glad
wasn't the central figure in the story.
And I'm so glad that they did that, because we went through 2.5 movies of his trauma. Like, I'm glad they didn't even give him a trauma scene. I'm like, okay, we're just gonna add him there, but if we're gonna make this about the other crew, because a lot of people, myself included, I didn't see really any of these characters. Like, I saw, what was it? The I forgot what his name was. John Walker. I forgot what his hero name is. Something like
U.S. agent or something.
U.S. agent.
Yeah.
We saw him in Thunderbolts, and I saw him in Falcon and Winter Soldier. So kind of knew him a little bit. Yelena, she was, if you didn't watch the Black Widow movie, I didn't. But she was there. She was same thing as Black Widow, part of that Russian program. The Red Guardian, kind of same deal.
Red Guardian, same Black Widow.
Yeah, knock off Captain America. Ghost. Don't know where the hell she came from. Apparently, she's like a SHIELD agent.
Again, deep in the bag of deep in the bag. Like they went deep in the well of characters from these comics that they had way back in the day, and it was like, let's make this movie. I actually thought making Yelena the main character really was a great choice, because I did see Black Widow when it came out, and it sucked. It was a bad movie. I didn't like it. But the one bright spot in the movie that I thought that the character I wanted to learn more from was about Yelena. Like, she had this past that I felt like, even from the beginning of the movie, if you go back and watch it, the opening scene when they're at that, like, it was like a airport terminal, or not an airport, but it was a runway, and they were getting on the plane to escape. You could tell that Yelena, as a small child, had a lot of issues, right? Not necessarily issues within herself, but issues externally, like people, like her environment around her, right. And obviously what she had to go through with the Black Widow program and all that kind of stuff. So, this movie though, I felt like built on that without going overboard. Like, we already know what her trauma story is based on what we saw in Black Widow. So for those who've seen it, they know. You didn't have to go into all of that, but you built on it by, now she has the regret. Now she's seeing how she's want to make a new change. She wants to be a hero now. She wants to bring meaning into her life.
Right.
Red Guardian didn't, obviously he was in Black Widow as well, and I don't think really his character didn't.
He was there for comic relief.
He was there for the comic relief. Yeah, he didn't. They didn't really expand on anything with him. He was there for the comic relief. I also like the touch of making Bucky trying to be a politician, and he's a bad politician, right? Because it shows the dynamic of him. Like, he's not a politician. He's a hero.
He's not a politician. I wouldn't even say he's a hero, but like, I mean, like, they brought him back to what he do, and I'm glad that like everybody kind of do what they do. Like, whenever he went to go save them, he was like, man, listen, I'm not Steve Rogers, you know, I'm not a politician, I'm not an Avenger, I kill people. I'm gonna kill the right people this time. But he came in with the guns, blew up like five military vehicles.
That was a crazy scene.
And so I think that you know, they're all misfits. I think they kind of did like a better take on the Suicide Squad thing, because they actually made you care about them outside of them like, oh, it's cool just to root for the anti-heroes. No, we actually got to see their mental health issues, their traumas, and shout out to Marvel for doing it in a creative way that wasn't really banging you over the head with it, and using a comic book accurate power in the Century. I think that Bob is gonna be a fucking fan favorite. Not just with his power, but like, you know, he kind of reminds you of like Thor in those early Avengers movies, you know?
Yeah, Bob was interesting to me because obviously there's two sides to him. There's obviously Sentry and then the Void, right? And the Void, actually, the thing about the Void's character, what I really, really liked was he didn't just seem evil. It wasn't evil. He didn't give off evil vibes. He didn't give off, Thanos type vibes or whatever. He gave off lost, right? He's a guy who has this ability, this really OP ability, right? In a world full of fragile beings. And how do you navigate that? It's actually kind of similar to Superman's dilemma. Like, Superman's biggest dilemma is how do you navigate being a god in a world amongst mortals? And I felt like the Void portrayed that perfectly. Now, when he's Sentry, I think that it's him living up to an image, right? Okay. You saw that when Valentina was introducing him, and they're in the penthouse, and he's just standing there trying to, he's standing there looking all smiley, and it's like, yeah, I'm him, but are you though? Because you've never done this before. You don't know what your limits are. And I thought that the team, when they were trying to fight him, and now he's discovering his limits. Now he's like, oh, well, wait, I can do this. Oh, I can dodge this. Oh, I can throw him here. Let me catch Winter Soldier's arm. Oh, I can do that. This is pathetic. Like, now he's starting to figure out himself. And that's what Sentry was. And then the Void takes over. And again, you see that aspect of he's lost. You saw that when he was in the little Shadow Realm world where he's in that apartment complex. They didn't know how to get out of that. He realized that the only way out of it is really conquering himself, conquering the Void. So that actor did a great job. His character was really good too, because his character was complex enough to where I cared about both sides of him. I cared about Bob, I cared about Void, I cared about Sentry, I cared about all of that. So this was a breath of fresh air of a movie. If I had to give it my rating, I'd say a good 7.5, 8, almost an 8 out of 10. It felt like Marvel went back to the idea of just a more grounded story, not an outlandish story. I didn't need, Eternals. I didn't need Brave New World.
I don't like they kept it to just New York. Like, I didn't need the whole universe to be at stake every time. Like,
I didn't need the U.S. military to have this big thing. And look, Valentina was perfect enough as a villain.
Absolutely.
Void, Sentry, Bob, they were perfect enough as a heel /
it was enough stakes there.
Yeah.
So it's like, it was enough stakes there to where, you actually was wondering how they were going to figure it out. And a lot of people probably complained, and I'm glad I went back and did like my research on this. Because when I saw the trailer of this dude disappearing people in the shadows, I'm like, what the hell are the super soldiers going to do? They can't do nothing but punch and shoot guns. Like, at best they're like a little bit better than Olympians. You know what I'm saying? what are they gonna do against a guy that can disappear in the shadows? And the way that they defeated him, also something that's comic book accurate, because that's how you get the Void away from the Sentry. You kind of have to, he has to overcome his mental, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I just appreciate that they moved like that. It's just a feel good movie. We know based on the Doomsday chair announcement that all of the Thunderbolts are going to be there. I'm sorry, the new Avengers are going to be there in Doomsday. I think they're all going to die, but or a good chunk of them. We might see them again just because of the popularity, but that seems like they seem like more of something that should be like a show, not just like a standalone movie. But it was refreshing. It was just a lighthearted, fun movie.
It was a lighthearted fun. They delivered on the fun.
They delivered on the fun, you know, and man, the choreography. One thing I do like about those super soldier field movies, whenever they fight, I love to see them fight. So I love to see the creativity they use, the choreography. They all had their different gadgets and skills and things like that. So I'm really looking forward to it. I wouldn't mind seeing them in somewhat of a crossover with the next Black Panther movie in there. I think that'll be something cool to see them in, something grounded. I do need to see them battle against whatever Sam is going to put together for his Avengers. And Spider-Man Brave New World, we need to answer to see why Peter Parker wasn't there. All of New York just got overcome in the shadow of darkness. Where's Peter Parker?
Where's Peter Parker?
I'm sorry, Spider-Man, because nobody knows who Peter Parker is apparently anymore. So
the one thing I liked about the movie is that they didn't just, you know, a little something that was different from like the first Avengers movie back in 2012 was that it took them almost the whole movie to figure things out, but you saw the potential through scenes, like the scene where they had to escape the that fire trap from that Valentina had set.
Right.
You know, they were fighting. There was the infighting. There was the arguing. There was this, but they figured the shit out. Then there was the scene where they had to escape being captured. Valentina had all those soldiers and stuff there, and they were trying to capture him. Bob was the one that got him out of that situation. But again, more infighting, more arguing. That was funny, by the way. Hilarious, right? It made me like John Walker's character more because he's a douchebag, he's an asshole, but he's a guy that he's reliable, right? He can lock into a task and understand the mission at stake.
This is I think they were very intentional about his redemption as a character because, I mean, honestly, they kind of set him up to fail, Marvel, because at the time, you got the evil Captain America, not evil Captain America, but the over aggressive cop, and this was in 2020 essentially, and then what he did of killing the guy, which if you take away the time period and time frame in the vacuum, he took down the terrorist who just killed his friend. Even though Captain America doesn't really kill, which, I mean, hey, if you kind of think about all those Avengers movies, they killed a lot of people low-key, but even though he doesn't actually kill, it's just such a bad look. Yeah. And so, but like when you look at it in a vacuum, I think they did a real good job of kind of redeeming his character. Yeah. And I think of him playing into like the lighthearted asshole was actually better for him instead of being like the super serious.
He built an identity that going forward in the MCU movies we can build around. And another thing I thought with him was we dove into his backstory a little bit post Falcon and Winter Soldier. And honestly, something I appreciated that Marvel didn't just go over the top with, he has this tragic story, his family died. No, his wife divorced him.
His wife divorced him. He was drinking. He was sad that his public image was messed up. His pride got hurt. And his wife divorced him. Simple
very relatable. Very relatable to so many different people.
Yeah. So
don't go over the top. It didn't make
you feel. You felt bad, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, these people just have the most horrible backstories ever. No, and it's something that happens, but you can kind of understand what it'll make any normal person. So, kudos to Marvel for honestly their take on trauma, which wasn't too outlandish. It wasn't too dramatic. It was enough to make you care.
Yeah.
But they didn't harp on it either. It was only at certain points, and everything else was jokes or fights.
Yeah.
That's the classic Marvel formula. And honestly, if that's what they're getting back to close out this multiverse saga, I'm here for it.
I'm here for it. Yeah, the themes of mental health was also a thing that I thought was a good thing to build around. Every character was struggling. Every character was dealing with stuff. Even like Red Guardian was dealing with the idea of like wanting to just be back in the action, not having to live this mundane life. So every character was dealing with something that we can relate to, not something that's catastrophic, like, oh, your whole family died or all this happened. The most catastrophic story was probably Yelena, yeah. And even her trying to move forward and trying to like rebuild her life was something that we can relate to. That's another thing. It was like, when I meant by like, they didn't dive back into her trauma and give us this whole thing. They were showing us the struggle of how she's moving forward with her life. And I appreciated that. It just felt so grounded. It felt so down to earth, and it felt like a breath of fresh air. So yeah, Marvel, good job with Thunderbolts. It was a movie that I had the least expectations for and the least anticipation for, because in a way it still was a filler movie. It still is,
but it
was a good one.
Like out of the three that we were expecting between Thunderbolts, Superman, and Fantastic Four, it's a real possibility that Thunderbolts will end up being the best out of those three.
Maybe.
Now, of course, we have the anticipation from the other two, but the other two, I think the expectation is so much higher. Yeah. But at the same time, it's a real possibility that they can like fumble the bag on both of those movies. So
yeah, and we'll look back at this and say, man, this was the best. We had the lowest expectations. This was the best.
Before we close out with the Thunderbolts review, one thing that now I kind of wish they'll push Doomsday back just a little bit was kind of the dynamic between Sam Wilson and Bucky, how that kind of got fractured. And at the end of Brave New World, Sam said that he's gonna rebuild the Avengers. Well, in the Thunderbolts, they're the new Avengers and they're government sanctioned. Sam isn't there, and clearly Sam probably isn't gonna rock with them because all of them at some point were just hitmen, and of course his history with John Walker. I mean, he's cool with Bucky, but that's about it,
Not cool with John Walker.
I'm very curious. I would love to see some kind of conflict between them just before we get to Doomsday, or maybe Doomsday will be long enough where they touch on it. But I'm very curious to see what that dynamic is like. See some kind of conflict between them. Who Sam's gonna bring in for his Avengers? Are we gonna get the Shang-Chi? Are we gonna get an Ant-Man?
There's gonna be a struggle between those two teams, by the way, exactly. For sure. There's gonna be that power dynamic. Who's taking center stage? And that is what I'm here for.
Exactly. So I think while we're on this high of grounded Marvel stories, we just got Daredevil over with. We got Thunderbolts. We're gonna have Spider-Man. That's supposed to be a grounded story coming soon. You know what I'm saying? So I think just before we get into the super multiversal end of the world, all the cameo stuff, now I actually just want like just one more filler movie, like in between of like okay.
Yeah, another fun filler movie.
Yeah, let's get another fun filler movie. Let's see them kind of beef a little bit, like on some Captain America Civil War type stuff. And then after that, then we could go to all the big thing where
let's get to the heavy hitters, right? Yeah. I feel you on that. I feel you on that. Thunderbolts it has done that to me as well, where it's like, yeah, I want a little bit more of that real quick. Before we move on, let's get one more of this. And it could be in the form of a series. It could be in the form of, you don't have to be a movie.
5-6 episodes.
Yeah, a little mini series here and there. That would be something to see. But yeah, man, there's so much to look forward to this year. So much forward to look next year. Look, we didn't even hit the full show because we got so much to talk about. We're a little out of time now, though. Next episode, man, we're gonna hit on the new Ironheart. We're gonna hit on Mafia Old Country. We got a new trailer. We obviously have a new trailer for that came out recently that I wanted to discuss. By the way, that game looks stunning. It looks amazing. And we know how Mafia gets down. So lots of things to review next episode. But this episode has been great. And we'll bring you more information as we learn more about a lot of different things that's happening this year and next. So right before we head out, you want to tell people what's going on, what's coming up in IMS?
Yes. Coming up on IMS, you're gonna get that playoff review with the JTS After Dark. The NBA playoffs are underway. Probably gonna have our league MVP announcement coming Sunday, so that's
of course
looking forward to that. Hey Jai is making a return this month, and of course we got all that good NIT pod content. So tune into IMS Studios on YouTube and check us out. Give us a like, comment, and subscribe.
Yes, sir. Yeah, obviously, like, subscribe. Go hit up our boy Justin, JTS After Dark, Just in Time Sports. If you love sports, he got you, man. He got you covered. Dude stays on it. So like I said, 19 away from our first 100. Be an OG subscriber. Subscribe to IMS. And we're just gonna keep bringing you this fire content, guys. But until next week, we'll have another episode of Nerdology coming at you. This has been a great episode. So we'll sign off there. Till next week.
Peace.